If the movie industry has shown us anything, it's that you don't have to be an astronaut to see the stars, a hero to live the action, or even a scientist to understand the science. At least that's the case with Christopher Nolan, director, screenwriter, and producer. Whether it's the finest adaptation of the Gothic Bat with an analysis of what it means to be a hero, or a journey into the story of a man with memory problems investigating his wife's death, told in the most timeless way possible, today we take a stroll through his mind, his filmography, and the concepts that shape Christopher Nolan's cinema. So grab your 3D glasses, because we're about to experience the best of his classics and innovations. This is District Flicker, so get comfortable because the show is about to begin. So silence your phone, hit the like button, and subscribe for more. Christopher Nolan, born July 30th, 1970 in London, is a British director, screenwriter, and producer, known for his unique and visionary approach to cinema. His beginnings in filmmaking date back to his childhood, where he developed an early interest in visual storytelling and cinematography. His father, Brendan Nolan, was an advertising executive, and his mother, Christina Nolan, was a teacher, both of whom influenced his education and artistic perspective. Nolan began filming at the age of 7, with an 8mm camera given to him by his parents. His fascination with telling stories through moving images intensified throughout his teenage years. While studying English literature at the University of London, his true passion remained filmmaking. During this time, he experimented with short films and screenplays, laying the groundwork for his distinctive style. One of the most notable and recurring features of Nolan's style is his focus on non-linear narrative. From his early works such as Following and Memento,
Since my injury, I can't make new memories. Everything fades.
to more ambitious projects such as Inception and Interstellar, and most recently, Oppenheimer, Nolan has demonstrated a remarkable consistency, if not a progressive evolution, in which he has honed his techniques, with Dunkirk and Oppenheimer, refining his style, and Tenet, pushing it to the limit. Let's delve a little deeper into Nolan's use of time in his stories. In Memento, for example, the story unfolds in reverse order, a choice of writing and directing made to reflect the protagonist's struggle with memory loss. This unconventional structure has become a hallmark of Nolan's work, keeping audiences engaged as they unravel the layers of his complex plots. But when it comes to the musical aspect, it has become part of his style to create greater immersion, and this is thanks to Hans Zimmer, who, to fulfill Nolan's wishes, has created memorable scores that seamlessly integrate with the visual narrative. We can see this in Dunkirk, where Zimmer's intense and pulsating score becomes a necessary element in building tension and suspense, masterfully blending with Nolan's visual storytelling. The attention to detail in sound mixing and music selection demonstrates the importance Nolan places on all the sensory elements of his films in order to immerse the viewer in a complete cinematic experience. Another element that defines Nolan's writing style is duality, and antagonistic doubles are a thematic element that intertwines throughout Nolan's filmography. From Following, which explores the concepts of observer and observer, to The Prestige, where duality is manifested through the rivalry between magicians, Nolan tends to incorporate dual elements into his plots. Even in superhero films like Batman Begins and The Dark Knight, duality is evident in the characters of Bruce Wayne and Batman, as well as in the confrontation between Batman and the Joker.
To them, you're just a freak. Like me. They need you right now. When they don't.
If you don't recognize these examples, there's Oppenheimer, a more recent movie. If you've watched it closely, you'll notice two super important things in the plot, and those are the points of view from which the narrative unfolds. On the one hand, we have Oppenheimer's point of view, the moments that we see in color in the movie, and on the other hand, we have the black and white scenes. These scenes are told from Lewis' point of view, played by Robert Downey Jr. But there's something we need to point out. The scenes narrated by Oppenheimer are from the point of view of a protagonist, showing how he perceives the world and how he feels, while the black and white scenes narrated by Lewis are real events. What actually happened, as seen from the facts. This recurring theme reflects Nolan's fascination with the complexity of representing narrative aspects in his direction, whether it's from the perception of his characters to elements in the plot. He has a philosophy, and it's about the message he's conveying, which veers away from any personal aspects of his life, being more important than the character's own issues, adopting a somewhat similar stance to that of Stanley Kubrick, usually creating worlds whose realities are intangible, from the visual aesthetic itself, as he sought to do with his science fiction works like Inception and Interstellar. Nolan strives to create a sense of authenticity and tangibility in his works, and his method of execution has gained somewhat dubious fame, where it is said that he likes to use only practical effects and not rely on computer-generated visual effects, CGI. But in reality, that's not the case. For Nolan, the aesthetics of his work and realistic narrative are paramount because his cinema is about that. So he tries to accomplish everything feasible in practical effects, whether it's the destruction of the stadium in The Dark Knight Rises or exploding the plane into a building in Tenet. And even his most iconic event so far, Oppenheimer's atomic bomb. But this was done for real, under controlled explosion. Because simulating an explosion of that size and proportion in CGI would be impossible without damaging the equipment, so the decision was made to do it for real. It's an interesting curiosity that he hates CGI and loves practical effects because theoretically he always uses them, or in most cases. The exploration of the mind and reality is another essential component of Nolan's style. In films like Inception, where characters enter the dreams of others, and Interstellar, where the perception of time is distorted, he seeks to push the boundaries of reality and consciousness. This focus on human psychology and the dimensions of the mind adds a philosophical depth to his stories, leading viewers to reflect on the nature of reality and perception. The mind, for Nolan, becomes fertile ground for exploration, and his films become introspective journeys that question the very nature of existence. Now that we know his brilliant mind, we can delve into his filmography. Insomnia is Nolan's second film, and it's notable for the absence of the director and his brother's distinctive touch in the script. This lack of creative involvement is reflected in the film, which, while not considered bad, is perceived as less intriguing and exciting compared to his other works. Al Pacino and Robin Williams are the pillars that hold the plot together, even if the movie as a whole doesn't reach the heights of Nolan's later productions. Next up is Nolan's first movie, which serves as a blueprint for everything he would do with his signature style. Despite a limited budget, the film manages to grab the viewer's attention from the start with its intriguing story and non-linear approach, something he would repeat years later. However, the lack of character development and limited running time are noted as areas for improvement. Tenet, perhaps one of the movies where Nolan really became himself more than anyone else, with a handling of time and execution of action scenes finally executed. However, a plot so complex that the movie wasn't understood, despite good performances by Robert Pattinson and John David Washington, didn't prevent it from being confusing to understand. Another aspect is the lack of personality of the characters. The Dark Knight Rises, the conclusion of Nolan's Batman trilogy, praised for maintaining the quality and excitement of the previous films. Christian Bale shines again as Batman, while Tom Hardy impresses with his portrayal of the intimidating Bane. Despite its length, the film is praised for taking its time to bring the story to a satisfying conclusion. Batman Begins. This is where the great films of his career begin, considered the great reinvention of superhero cinema, where we managed to achieve a deep and realistic origin for Bruce Wayne. The introduction of Ra's al Ghul as a human opponent adds an element of realism and science to the narrative, while it's the official fixation that Nolan won for Cillian Murphy. In addition, Hans Zimmer's soundtrack is highlighted for its impact in creating the dark yet heroic atmosphere of the film. Memento. Memento, a fascinating psychological thriller, is one of Nolan's most creative works. The unique narrative structure, combined with near-perfect performances and the exploration of memory and identity, make the film an unforgettable experience. Moreover, its ending, well, its middle, actually, is a very overwhelming conclusion. Dunkirk. It's a pretty powerful movie, too tense and with a level of intensity and rawness that is admirable. It deals with three quite difficult timelines that are not easy to appreciate. The characters are written in such a way that it is hard to empathize with them, and the music created by Hans Zimmer makes this one of Nolan's best movies and such a raw adaptation of war that it leaves you overwhelmed. Inception. Starring Leonardo DiCaprio, it tells the story of people who can enter dreams and has one of the best action scenes in his entire filmography. Besides being one of the most popular and thought-provoking, with one of the most confusing and mysterious endings, it is by far one of the most entertaining and interesting in his filmography. The Prestige. The Prestige is a story of obsession, friendship, and rivalry between two illusionists. The stellar cast, including Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, David Bowie, and Scarlett Johansson, deliver unparalleled performances, but the best part is how the plot is taken to extremes to see who is better and have another one of the great endings of his work. Interstellar. The most acclaimed by the audience, the most recognized and famous, and the one that introduced many people to this director's cinema. A work that tells about love, but through time and how, even as it progresses, it can remain as pure as the first moment. One of the director's simplest works, although all the elements around it are complex, and although its ending is somewhat complex and breaks a bit with scientific bases in favor of emphasizing the discourse of love, there is no doubt that it is one of the most beautiful. The Dark Knight. It is considered the best superhero film in history. The darkness and complexity that Nolan established in Batman Begins are taken to new heights with the introduction of the Joker, masterfully portrayed by Heath Ledger. The film's ambiguous conclusion and perfect balance of character development and action put it at the top of the list. Oppenheimer. The film that seems to have been born with him is a combination of everything that makes Nolan's cinema. From the use of time to the innovative cinematic experience. From the stunning performances of Cillian Murphy and Robert Downey Jr., to the iconic scenes that redefine IMAX technology, this film stands as an unprecedented cinematic experience, solidifying its place as Nolan's finest work to date. Although discussing and ranking the best or worst will always be something relative, cinema, as Nolan sees it, is an artistic expression, and each artist and viewer will always have their own interpretation according to their imagination. So tell me, how do you rank Christopher Nolan's filmography? And which one is your favorite? I would love to hear your opinion in the comments. If you liked it, it would be great if you left a like, so I know. And don't forget to subscribe and share with your friends, so they can do their own ranking. That's it for today. This is District Flicker, and I'll see you in the next movie discussion. Bye-bye.